Hey, what's up? Here's another game from the Trade-Wide Gibraltar Masters Tournament. This game is from January 31st, 2018. And with the white pieces is the beautiful Valentina Gunina, age 28 and rated 2502. And with the black pieces, one of your favorite grandmasters, legendary Nigel David Short, rated 2681, 52 years old. And let's see. So Valentina, representing the female chess players out there, played e4. Nigel played one of my favorite defenses. It's like I have a sentimental attachment to this defense. Knight f6, Alekhine's defense. e5. So no knight c3 or d3. No copping out from Valentina. She plays the most principled move. Knight d5, d4, d6. Knight f3, modern defense, um, and g6. This is known as the Albert variation, and has kind of came back in style um, recently. There's other variations that can be played, such as the Kangas variation, for instance, after d takes e5, knight takes e5 and c6. Also, this Agamazov variation is playable. These are rare lines, c6, and also, of course, there is the old school variation, bishop g4, and of course, there's reasons why you don't see these lines. They've fallen on hard times in the last few years. Okay, but this line, I think out of not that one, sorry, this one, d takes e5, knight takes e5 and c6, I think is neck and neck as far as in the modern times as far as reliable variations. But g6 is what Nigel chose. Bishop e2, bishop g7, and now c4, taking that space. Knight b6, and here we go with this exchange. So now it's transposed into an exchange variation. Of course, black has two choices, but usually with the fianchetto, um, the dynamic capture with the c pawn provides a little more counterplay, as the game has some similarities and characteristics to a Sicilian defense. But the big difference and the major difference is that the pawn is on d4 instead of e4. The pawn is on e4, you can see there's much more vulnerability on the dark squares. For instance, black can use the c5 square or even the e5 square in some cases for a piece. Of course, assisting his counterplay greatly. But with the pawn here on d4, those options are cut off, and it makes it a little more difficult to generate counterplay. Castles from Gunina, castles from Nigel. Bishop g5, knight c6, h3, and now bishop f4, knight c3. So we can see that both players developed adequately. Again, black's position is very sound. It's just that white has this space advantage, and that's going to be the major story in these type of defenses. Solid pawn structure, but difficult when it comes to maneuvering as you take on a cramped position. So h6, bishop e3, and now Nigel plays the very common and traditional idea d5. White plays c5, and notice the pawns on a2 and b2. Usually later on in the endgame, those pawns will be very annoying as they move up the board, and white uses his majority, or her majority in this case, on the queen side to often create a pass pawn. Knight c4. Again, this is a very common theme on Alekhine. And for instance, move like bishop takes c4, d takes c4 would equalize instantly for black. Let's say queen a4 attacked the pawn, then this bishop would go right into d3, and that's the whole reason behind the bishop being on f5 and d5, knight being played to c4. This is why Valentina played the move bishop c1. So she loses the tempo, dropping the bishop back, but she'll be able to kick the knight out later. So b6 is played, and here, again, common idea is the this kind of sacrifice or pseudo sacrifice, if you will. b3, hitting the knight. Notice the knight doesn't have any squares to go to. Nigel takes the pawn. B takes c4, c takes d4, another pawn, and now the bishop, now the knight on c3 is hit. So knight takes d5. And now here is a critical moment in the game. Nigel played the move e6. The other choice is d3, with the idea, of course, of hitting the bishop on e2 with the pawn, but also the idea of picking up the rook on a1. And for example, play could go, d3, play could go bishop d3, bishop takes d3, queen takes d3, and bishop takes a1, and then bishop takes h6, where white is threatening to capture the rook on a1, so of course black, and also threatening the rook here on f8, so of course black could move this bishop back to g7, or even consider giving back the exchange here, but probably would be worse. This is a difficult position because, for example, after bishop g7, this exchange here seems to favor white, especially with the queen having such access to the dark squares. But I think this continuation is probably better than actually what took place in the game. So I think snatching the rook and perhaps trying to retreat back with the bishop, and I'm not even sure if bishop takes g7 is white's best move there. He might have a better move, but this, like I said, I'm just going off the top of my head right here. But this seems like a good sequence to get rid of black's dark square bishop, and then play on the dark squares with your queen. But going back here, and then bishop takes h6, I do prefer white there. So back to the game, Nigel played the move e6, hitting the knight first to drive the knight away, and then Valentina made a really good in-between move, or Zwischenzug, by playing bishop a3, hitting the rook. Nigel took, e takes d5, bishop takes f8, giving up the exchange. And now king takes f8, and Nigel still has ideas of playing a move like d3, but Valentina steps on the gas pedal. C takes d5, queen takes d5, and now bishop d3, blocking the advance of the d pawn. And now more pieces are going to be traded. Bishop takes f5, queen takes f5, and now the rook moves out of the way. So now white is just up in exchange, a full-on exchange, and Nigel just has the passed d pawn, and that does not seem like enough compensation. Knight d3 in an attempt to dominate the position, but the rook just simply goes to the 7th rank. Rook b1. Nigel played the move king g8, and now simply queen b1, threatening moves like rook b5, for instance, harassing the queen, or even trading off rooks if she would like. Queen d5 was played, rook b5, queen c4, and now just rook d1, attacking the knight on d3. The knight now must give up powerful on post. Knight f4, and now simply rook b8, simplifying. And here, after 28 moves, Grandmaster Nigel Short resigned. Um, so I hope you enjoyed that game. It was very very interesting choice in the Alekhine defense. I know Nigel plays it from time to time, and he actually has a great score against it. Remember his famous king walk game versus Jan Timman? That was Alekhine defense where Nigel was on the white side. He also played a match in 1985 when he was a young man against Grandmaster Lev Albert, where a 8-game match, and 4 of the 8 games they were Alekhine defense games, and Nigel won all of them. And I actually analyzed them in one of my videos called Alekhine's Defense Specialist against Alekhine Destroyer. So check that out if you get a chance. But that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Great game by Valentina. And please like and subscribe and comment. And feel free to check the links below. I'll see you guys soon.